And so in that time frame, I was just kind of managing the chaos. Like through everything that happened, is I was just, and I'd say I did a fairly decent job of managing the chaos, but I knew that I didn't want to just live a life of managing the chaos. Like how do we organize the chaos? How do we make the chaos not chaotic and like manage it down to where it's this, it's not chaos. It becomes just manageable um, life, I guess, kind of. That was where I was at when I came into Legacy Farmer. So I remember the first time I read one of Jace's ads, and I can remember it like it was yesterday because it was Sunday afternoon. I was sitting in my recliner scrolling through Facebook, and I had seen Jace's ads for probably a month, and I was just like, oh, one of these again. And finally, it was the 7 biggest issues that farmers and ranchers face. It was something like that.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to Legacy Farmer. Now, there's a couple things you need to know right off the bat. Who am I, right? And the second thing is, why should you be listening to me? Well, something drew you to this page. I don't know if it was a Facebook ad, if it was a referral, but one way or another, you identify with the term Legacy Farmer, and there's a reason for that. Obviously, you're a farmer or a rancher who is dedicating their entire life to building something.
And so I was like, all right, what's this guy saying? And so I looked at the ad, and I looked at the bullet points, and I was like, dude, this guy gets it. Like, because most of these ads are just trying to sell you something like, oh, you need to buy a new tractor, or you need to buy a new feed truck, or, this really nice trailer will make hauling cattle better. Well, it don't matter, because the stuff that Jace was talking about in that ad was the stuff that goes on right here, between your ears, which is our biggest downfall or our biggest tool, depending on how we go about overcoming those things, between our ears. So I remember that time it felt very chaotic in a lot of ways. And so when I saw Jace's ad, and I was like, you know what, maybe this guy knows what he's talking about. And so I read that ad, I went straight to the website, filled out the application. And so I think looking back, I think it was helping just to better manage the chaos. Like I kind of knew the things that had to be done, but I didn't really know how to do it, I guess. I think when I came into business or Legacy Farmer, actually I was looking for a business solution. And I think a lot of people probably come in looking for the business solution, but we realize that, when you look at the core 4, where it's body, being, balance, and business is last because it comes last because, the business is kind of like the roof on a house. If you don't have a good work-life balance and you're out there on, Sunday afternoon, instead of spending time with your wife and kids and family, and you're just grinding away because you think you just got to work more, well, that's not really the solution. So I think we all come looking for the business solution, but we understand that it starts right here. I guess the biggest feeling that I can remember, and going back to that point in time, was I remember it feeling really heavy, and there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of doubt, a lot of fear and discomfort going through my mind at that point in time. And I think, one of the biggest deals is for us, like with these chicken barns, you're basically taking a third party's word that if you go to the bank and make this ginormous investment, that they're going to take care of you and everything's going to be rosy. And well, it would have been with the company that we signed a chicken contract with which was Vital Farms. And so, they give you these projections, and you look at these projections, and you take it to the bank, and everybody says, and when the bank says, hey, this is a go, you're like, well, I guess if the bank thinks it's a good deal, then it is a good deal, and I just got to dig in and work hard, and it's all going to be great. And that's not how it all works out. I think it rarely turns out to be one of those, just rosy, golden brick road situations. There's always a lot of lessons to be learned, and I guess I kind of go back to that old saying, the little kid asks, what's the difference between school and life? And in school you get the lesson and then you take the test, and in life you take the test and then you get the lesson. And so I remember in that time, just being very heavy, a very pressure-filled situation. Just the weight of the world is on you, and it is just, living paycheck to paycheck like we were at that point in time. It's frustrating because nobody sets out to do that. You don't go to school and grow up, just, hey, I want to, grow up and work hard and live paycheck to paycheck. Like, nobody ever thinks about that. But the reality is, I think we all hit that situation at a certain time in life. I know I learned to live like that in college. So then when we started this business that I had to, live paycheck to paycheck, like, I knew how to do it, but it felt like I was going backwards too. Like, hey, we did all this to like get ahead. Like, how are we ever going to get ahead? And I just remember those feelings of frustration, feeling like I was going backwards in life. And I was just, working all these hours to be in the same position I was in college when I worked a minimum wage job. So, that was heavy. It was deep. It was pressure, a lot of things. Yes. And I think it's because it's kind of the nature of the business. Like, when you're in the farm and ranching business, there's very few things that, give you steady income. So really what happens is you get these big wads of cash, at a few points during the year. So it's rarely about who's the best farmer, who has the shiniest equipment, who can raise the biggest and best calves, like who's the best money manager. Because we don't get these steady streams of income, weekly or even monthly. Typically it's 2 or 3 big payments a year. So you can know how to grow corn, you can know how to AI cows, but if you don't know how to manage your money, then it's kind of a mute point. Yeah, I felt pretty alone, because I would try to talk to my dad and grandpa about it, but so many times it just came down to, just work hard and it'll all work out. And like, I'm not devaluing hard work, and I'm not devaluing, putting in the time, and because I don't want to, I wasn't looking for instant gratification, but I also was like, okay, we've been working hard, we've done things right, and here we are, a year and a half into this deal, like nothing major went wrong. So like, are we just going to keep working hard for another 25 years and be in the exact same position? Like, what's going to change? Like, what's going to be different 20 years from now that's not different now? Because I think another thing is we're always like, oh, next year is going to be good. Next year we're going to have higher prices. Next year this and that. But our inputs never go down. Our inputs always go up. So there you come back to being a money manager. So yeah, I think it's just, I think it is a big struggle in this industry, because I think there's still some of that old school mentality, just work hard and it'll all work out. Well, I beat my head against the wall. It's not going to change anything. I can work. I was talking to a buddy of mine, just a few weeks ago, we were having this conversation, because there's this, about this old school mentality of just work hard and everything will work out. Well, you can work 80 hours a week, all you want, all year long, never go on vacation, never take a day off, never go out to eat. But if you don't become a better business manager, then nothing's ever going to change. You can work hard all you want, and nothing's going to change. So honestly, I don't think looking back I would have done anything different, because I wouldn't be where I am right now and what I've learned. But I will say, going forward, I will be very discerning and really both eyes open when it comes to, any kind of third-party partnership, or especially when it comes to contracts with big investments. And if there's a big investment on one end, there really should be a big investment on the other, and everybody should be working together. So I got to say, looking back in the path that I've been on, the decisions that I've made have led me to where I am now. And so to go back and change anything would take away from where I am now. But I can tell you those lessons of the heavy feeling, the loneliness, the emptiness. Like, I'm going to be very careful about not ever putting myself in that situation again. So about this time last year, we made the decision to go all in just selling the chicken barns and getting completely out of that business. And so, let's see, we finished out the flock that we were on, and we got the property cleaned up, and we got it listed this spring. And I mean, immediately, like in the first week we had it listed, I mean, we had 3 or 4 people come and look at it. Everybody was super interested. We even actually had an offer put in on the deal. We accepted the offer, but before we could get an official contract signed, the guy backs out. And then things went like radio silent for probably 6 weeks. And I remember in that time being like, oh man, have I messed up? Like, am I going to have to figure out a way to put chickens back in these barns? Because, I mean, it's the last thing I want to do, but if I got to do it, I just got to do it. And so that was a pretty rough time period. But I really felt in my heart of hearts like we were making the right decision here. Like, you put everything down on paper, like this deal it just doesn't fit anymore. Like, it was the right decision, or we thought it was the right decision at a point in time, and I guess ultimately it was the right decision at a point in time. But now the right decision is to move away from that. And so, you list a property for sale in what we have known as probably the hottest real estate market our generation has ever known, and probably the world may have ever known. But then you can't get it sold, and it's like, everything, it's just like roadblock after roadblock. And so then you start doubting yourself and the decisions that you make. And so I think in that doubt, and what I learned in Legacy Farmer was we got to go back, let's calm down. Like, let's go back to the root and the facts of what's going on here and the decisions that we make. And so it's like, just hang on. Like, it hadn't worked out yet, but it's not over. Like, just hang on. We made these decisions. There's things working. Let's give it a little bit of time. And really just going back to having confidence in the original decision you made. Like, you made the decision for a reason. Let's not get over emotional about it. And just hang on for a second. And honestly, since our last interview, we actually now have the chicken barns under contract, and we're set to close here in less than 60 days. And I think with telling that story, there's another point I want to make here, and especially to people who are in my position, who are maybe like second, third generation on the family farm. And maybe you're in my position where the other generations have now passed and you're the person in charge. And maybe you don't want to do things like Dad and Grandpa did, and you want to make changes. Well, if you're the boss, then you're the boss, and you're allowed to make the decisions that are best for you, your family, and the next generations. You don't have to keep doing things like Dad and Grandpa did just because that's the way Dad and Grandpa did. Like, you're allowed to make changes, and it's okay.